I mean, what do you think of the implications of Donald Trump endorsing Feenstra? I mean, it was a pretty lukewarm
Yeah, it was kind of at the end there.
Right there at the end, but it was certainly not. I mean, maybe that's because Trump doesn't like the Koch brothers and doesn't like the AFP connection. But what do you think about that?
So first of all, we should say Zach Lahn narrowly eked out Feenstra. It was like less than a percentage point.
That's true.
But
that is
still
true.
really interesting, right? So he's going to be the Republican candidate in the fall. I think when you think about this, we talk about so much this MAHA-MAGA marriage. This was really I saw this as an example of MAHA, like grassroots, kind of flipping the bird to MAGA and being like, you're ignoring us. You're going against us on all these policies. We just, beat your candidate in Iowa. Not everyone said it that clearly, but some of them did. Like you're seeing some grassroots folks, like Vani Hari and Kelly Ryerson, different folks, Alex Clark, who's a Turning Point USA like health influencer. They're like, well, look out, GOP, like you're ignoring us, you're going against us, and like we have real political power. So I think watching that outcome felt to me like kind of Maha's biggest political win, like clean, like it was MAGA versus MAHA. There was a MAGA, there was a Trump endorsed candidate, and then there was a MAHA candidate, and the MAHA candidate won. That's just interesting. And it shows
I think it's fascinating.
There's actual, there's traction these issues can have traction with Republican voters generally, which I just think is interesting. We'll see how it goes. I don't know that this is going to help them in a general election because you also have Rob Sand, the Democrat, really trying to run as a centrist and trying to like break out of this like left-right divide. So I don't know how this will all shake out, but it's super interesting to watch.
He's got a pretty good chance to win. I mean, it's not guaranteed, but he is not. He is not he's not a nobody there now. I think there's a couple of things I want to sort of focus on because one, I think he's in some ways a really great symbol of the MAHA contradiction, right? Other than the vaccines. So he wants to take on big ag to some degree, but he doesn't because of his background. He's a Republican, and at least his history, he was a libertarian Republican. He doesn't really believe in the tools that we have to do that, which is government action.
So I think yes and no. He's like, take away the subsidies, right? He doesn't want to have subsidies for, bringing like Corteva or these other companies, like giving them tax breaks to move their offices and operations there. So that's a little bit libertarian to be like, okay, we're not going to subsidize this, right? But I did hear him, I've heard him a few times say that he actually thinks some of these ag companies need to be broken up, like they need to use antitrust enforcement. So
he is pro-antitrust. Yeah, he's an antitrust guy. Yeah.
In general, yes, but that struck me as a real difference. Although there is an argument to be made that a true free market conservative is for breaking up monopolies because it's like not a functioning market, but that's a whole other like. Other ideological.
We can sort of split the hairs on the Ayn Randian, Randian theory here about monopolies. So
I think generally you're right, but he is for antitrust enforcement, which is I think markedly different from the mainstream Republican brand we're seeing right now.
The other thing I want to talk about,
not to interrupt you, but
no, sorry, that's great. The other thing I want to talk about is just sort of Iowa itself and how the issues that MAHA represents. And maybe not always the messengers, because there's a lot of things that Lahn thinks and wants to do on other issues that I'm not so crazy about. The social issues, I don't know that I would agree with him if I dug too deeply into it. But I think the things that MAHA wants to do on food, they really are gaining traction in a interestingly bipartisan way. And I think you can look at another statewide race in Iowa, and that's for the Secretary of Agriculture. And the Democratic candidate is a guy named Chris Jones. Yeah. He's also running on MAHA relevant. Yep. He's running on MAHA relevant issues as well. And a lot of that has to do with Iowa's, the impact on Iowa's water for agricultural chemicals. They have a water problem in Iowa. It's got the second highest cancer rate in the United States and the fastest growing rate of cancer nationally, and researchers there, they increasingly believe that there's a link between that cancer problem and agricultural chemicals. And people in Iowa, I think the takeaway as much as anything else, whether you want to put a label on it like MAHA, they are pissed off about the water, no doubt about it. And any candidate from any party who ignores that, they do it at their own peril, like our candidate Feenstra, although I don't actually know what his position on water was now that I say that.
I don't think it was something he talked about. And also we should note that Feenstra was like skipping a lot of events and things. I don't think he was a good campaigner or wasn't really leaning in at the end. And there's definitely people who are just complaining about him as a candidate and that, so there's that whole other thing of like showing up and being a personality. Yeah. But I do think that is like the big takeaway is that the question of like what is going on with Iowa's environment and water and their cancer rates is a politically potent issue. And voters are not only fired up about it, but like they are looking to candidates to say something about it. And I think, the ag secretary race there will be one to watch for sure.